Hello everyone, my name is Satish Kumar Aran. In this class, we are going to discuss about the third semester organic chemistry topics. In third semester, the first concept what we are having is alcohols. In the previous semester, you have studied alkyl halides, that means hydrocarbons containing halogen atoms. So you have studied how these halogen compounds can be classified, how the reactivity of those compounds can be understood, everything in the previous semester. In this class, we are going to talk about the different functional group. Now in this case, we have alcohols. Now let us try to understand what these alcohols are, how we can classify alcohols, how we can prepare them, distinguish them, and etc. First is definition. See, compounds that contains hydroxyl group. Compound that contains hydroxyl group as their functional group is called alcohols, or saturated carbon which is attached to hydroxyl group. So that is about the definition of alcohols. Okay, the hydroxy or hydroxy derivative of hydrocarbons are also called alcohols. Now how do we classify these alcohols? I'll just represent it right now. If we take CH3OH, I'll write the example here. This is methyl alcohol. We generally use the word like this is the IUPAC naming of alcohols. We are not talking about the IUPAC nomenclature, but this is the example. That means this hydrocarbon part, saturated carbon, is attached to hydroxyl group. So this becomes alcohols. Now let us see how we can classify these alcohols. Classification of alcohols. We can classify alcohols based on number of hydroxyl group. Like the first one is monohydric that contains one hydroxyl group. The word itself is suggesting mono means single, hydric means hydroxyl group, so it contains only one hydroxyl group. You can take the example of ethyl alcohol, CH3CH2OH. Or you can take any example which contains only one hydroxyl group. Let's say for example, you can take isopropyl alcohol, N-butanol, secondary butanol, whatever it may be. Doesn't matter. You can take any example like this, any isomeric example, whatever it may be. But our only concern is even the benzyl alcohol can be called monohydric in nature. So doesn't matter how many different examples you are taking, the primary concern is to understand that these molecules contain only one hydroxyl group in them. So they are monohydric in nature. Then we have, this is A, we'll write, this is B, dihydric. Dihydric alcohols which contains two OH groups, which contains two hydroxyl groups. Let us try to write the example here. The simplest example what we know is ethylene glycol, or simply we say glycol. This is a dihydric alcohol. As I said, you are not supposed to fix to any one example. You can take any number of examples. In this case, it is ethane 1,2 diol. If you write like this is butane 2,3 diol. Doesn't matter which example you are taking. The only thing you need to remember is if the compound has to be called dihydric, then it must contain two hydroxyl group like this. Okay? So this is ethylene glycol. This is butane 2,3 diol. You can take an example like that. Okay? Now, next is trihydric alcohols. Trihydric, as the name suggests, it contains 3 OH groups. It contains 3 hydroxyl groups. Let us take example. The simplest one is this compound is called glycerol. This compound is called glycerol. Okay, or propane 1, 2, 3 triol, that is IUPAC nomenclature of this molecule. So you call this molecule as a trihydric alcohol because it contains 3 hydroxyl group. Again, you can take any number of example. Suppose if I write like this, this is cyclohexane 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It is cyclohexane 1, 3, 5 triol. Okay, that is how you understand. You can write any example as I said, but you must understand that in every example I am writing the saturated carbon. Okay, unsaturated carbon becomes a different part. Only thing is you need to understand that these carbons are saturated in nature. That is very important. So that is about trihydric alcohol, compounds which contain 3 hydroxyl group. Let us move on. We have a last one that is called polyhydric alcohol. So this becomes C and now D. That is polyhydric alcohols. Once again, this poly means many, so it contains more than 3 OH group, more than 3 groups. So what do you understand? Generally, poly means it doesn't mean that more than 3, even the 3 can also be called poly. Anything which is greater than 1 can be poly itself. But we simply classify them as mono, di. Anything literally more than 2 can be called poly itself. Now this is also an example for polyhydric alcohol. But for instance, for the sake of this classification, we'll keep it separate. So polyhydric alcohol means which contains more than 3 hydroxyl group. The best example for this is like carbohydrates. I am taking glucose as an example here. This is glucose. So glucose contains how many hydroxyl group? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It contains 5 hydroxyl group. So you can simply say that these are polyhydric compounds, alcoholic compounds. In this case, these are polyhydric compound. In this case, in glucose, what is happening? There is a functional group, that is dominant functional group that is called aldehyde. So this becomes secondary. So generally we can say these are hydroxy group only. So these are polyhydric compounds. Now, this is about a classification based on the number of hydroxyl group. 1 mono, 2 di, 3 tri. More than 3 becomes polyhydric alcohols. Now, how do we classify them based on the carbon to which it is attached? So we can say based on. So this is based on number of hydroxyl group, as I said, number of hydroxyl group here. But here based on the nature of carbon to which OH group is attached. OH group is attached. So how do we classify them based on the nature of the carbon atom to which this hydroxyl group is attached? That's very simple. We say primary, secondary and tertiary. Very simple. If the hydroxyl group is attached to a primary carbon atom, then it is called primary alcohol. If it is attached to secondary carbon atom, it is called secondary. And if it is attached to tertiary carbon atom, it is called tertiary alcohols in nature. I'll write simple example here. If you take ethyl alcohol, say for example CH3CH2OH, if you take ethyl alcohol, then in this case hydroxyl group is attached to primary carbon atom, so you can call it as primary alcohols. And if you take isopropyl alcohol, this is CH3CHOH, that means this OH is attached to this secondary carbon atom. So this isopropyl alcohol is an example for secondary alcohol because this hydroxyl group is attached to secondary carbon. Similarly for tertiary, you can write tertiary butyl alcohol. In this case, the carbon which is bearing hydroxyl group is tertiary in nature. Here it is secondary, here it is primary in nature. So hope you are understanding what I am trying to say. So we are trying to classify alcohols based on the nature of the carbon atom to which it is attached. So you say primary, secondary and tertiary. Quaternary is not possible here because carbon atom gets the 4 covalent bond with the other carbon atoms, so that's impossible. So we have primary, secondary and tertiary. And finally, we have some like exceptional one we need to remember. Based on hybridization, this is all sp3 only, but remember this is allyl alcohol, allylic alcohol. In this case, this is sp3, okay, allyl alcohol, and here it is called vinyl alcohol. Now it violates our, what is the definition? While explaining the definition, I told you that the hydroxyl group is attached to saturated carbon atom, but that is not the only case. In this case, we have exception here. So hydroxyl group is attached to unsaturated carbon also. So you need to remember that point. So simply it is always best to say that alcohols are the compounds or the hydrocarbons which contains OH group as their functional group. That is the best definition. So this is vinyl alcohol. This is allyl alcohol. This is vinyl. See, in allyl and benzyl, the hydroxy group is attached to sp3. That is very important. You need to remember that, okay? Because in allyl and benzyl, the hydroxy group is attached to the carbon next to double bond. Here there is a double bond, but the hydroxy group is attached to this carbon atom here. Here there is a double bond. Here. But in case of vinyl, OH group is directly attached to an unsaturated, that is an alkene system. Okay, so that is vinyl. And if the hydroxy group attached to an aromatic system, then the name is called phenols. Then we no longer call them as alcohols, we call them as phenols. Okay, so hope you understood. So based on hybridization, this is for general purpose, like try to understand how the different molecules can occur with alcohols. So it can also, the hydroxyl group can also attach to sp2 carbon atom like this. But in case if the hydroxyl group is attached to an aromatic system like benzene and naphthalene or something like that, we call it as a phenolic group. This group is called phenolic in nature. So that is about classification of alcohols based on number, based on the nature of carbon atom, and hybridization you can call that as. Now let us proceed. You say, how do we prepare this preparation of alcohols? Now we will talk about the preparation of these alcohols, that is preparation of alcohols. There are so many methods for the preparation of alcohols, but let us go as it is in the syllabus. In the syllabus there are 2 methods given for the preparation of alcohol. The first one is hydroboration oxidation method. It's what? Hydroboration oxidation method. Hydroboration oxidation method. Now how we can prepare alcohols using this hydroboration oxidation method? That is very important. Now what we are doing in hydroboration oxidation, we are taking an alkene. Let us say for example ethene, we are taking an alkene and we are treating this with diborane. We are treating this with diborane. You will get, you will get trialkyl borane. So we write CH3, CH2, thrice B. We get trialkyl borane. This is ethene. This is triethyl borane. Triethyl borane we are going to get, and followed by oxidation using hydrogen peroxide in basic medium. In basic medium gives 3 molecules of CH3, CH2, OH plus H3, boric acid. So this is the point you need to remember. We are not talking about the mechanism of this reaction, but there are a few points you need to remember. Hydroboration oxidation, that is the first step here is called hydroboration. That means what is happening to this alkene system, we are adding hydrogen. Hydroboration means what? This is a B2H6 is actually a dimer. It is formed by BH3. This is a monomeric unit. It dimerizes to form B2H6. Okay? So this is BH3. Now how we can add this one? So H here, BH2 to one compound. So you are adding H to one carbon and BH2 to another carbon. So this gives monoalkyl borane. I am writing here. In the first step, let us assume that you are adding H and BH2. That means BH3, you are adding H to one carbon and BH2 to another carbon. So you write here like here. So CH3. Since you are donating H here, it becomes CH3 and this bond goes. You write CH2 and BH2 attacks here. BH2. Now this is the one step. This is one step process. That means this is called monoalkyl borane. Monoalkyl borane. If you take only one ethene molecule, then imagine that you have one ethene molecule, it first attaches to borane to form monoalkyl. Since we have taken 3, what happens? This process takes place two more times. Okay? See, here in BH3, one of the hydrogen is donated to one carbon here in the first step. There are 2 more hydrogen atoms to be donated. Still there are 2 more hydrogen atoms which is ready to get donated. So what happens? You add 2 more ethene molecule, then you are going to get triethyl borane. So this is mono. Again this hydrogen replaced by another alkyl, another hydrogen replaced by another alkyl. Finally you are going to get trialkyl borane. This is the first step. Okay, I have written directly here. That means you have taken 3 alkene molecule, but it proceeds via mono, di, trialkyl borane. Now what is the second part here? See, hydroboration, oxidation. We are oxidizing this trialkyl borane. We generally say alkyl because in this case I have taken ethene, so it becomes triethyl. If you take propene, tripropyl. If you take butene, tributyl. So obviously it depends on the alkyl group. So generally we say in the intermediate step trialkyl borane is formed. In this case it is triethyl borane. When this triethyl borane is oxidized using hydrogen peroxide in basic medium, it gives our alcohol and hydroboric acid as a byproduct. Now what is the only point, the extra point you need to remember is, this is a symmetrical alkene. If you take unsymmetrical alkene, for example, if you take propene molecule, CH3, CH double bond, CH2, this is a propene molecule. If you take propene molecule and you react this with B2H6, the addition takes place according to Markovnikov rule. And the addition takes place according to Markovnikov rule, but the product form will be anti-Markovnikov. This is the important point you need to remember. This is the important point you need to remember. What happens? The addition takes place according to Markovnikov. So CH3, CH2, CH2, BH. This is the first one. Okay. Imagine you are adding BH3. I'll simply write BH3 here, not to make you confused. BH3. So H adds here and BH2 adds here. Okay. So it goes via a cyclic transition state. I write here CH3, CH3, or else HBH2. Okay. So hydrogen adds here and BH adds here. Okay, this double bond comes here and adds here. Hydrogen adds to this carbon. That is very important. In this case, this hydrogen is actually negatively charged species. Now hydrogen is negative. That's why it goes to carbon carrying least number of hydrogen, and positive part goes to carbon carrying more number of hydrogen atom. So this is according to Markovnikov only. But what happens when you oxidize this compound using, let us imagine in this case now I have added only one compound. I have taken one propene, you got monopropyl borane, that is monoalkyl borane. If we take 3 propene, then you will get tripropyl borane. This is very important. I am not writing all the steps. I have already explained here. In the first step you get mono, again one more alkene reacts to get di, again one more reacts to get trialkyl borane. In this case now we have tripropyl borane. In the final step what you are doing, you are just oxidizing this molecule using H2O2 in presence of sodium hydroxide. You are going to get CH3, CH2, CH2OH, 3 molecules plus H3. Point is, the addition is according to Markovnikov, but the product form is anti-Markovnikov product, okay. So, it appears like anti-Markovnikov product, okay. If you take propene and do the hydration, acid catalyzed hydration, you are going to get isopropyl alcohol as the major product. But in this case, you are going to get N-propyl alcohol, which looks like anti-Markovnikov, which is actually a Markovnikov addition, okay. Now, that is about preparation of alcohols using hydroboration oxidation technique, okay. Now, the second one is, as I was talking about, hydration of alkenes. In both the cases, we are preparing alcohols using alkenes only. Now, in this case, we are talking about hydration of alkenes in acid medium, that is acid catalyzed. So, acid catalyzed hydration of alkenes. Hydration means addition of water to an unsaturated system. Let us see how it works. Now, imagine that we are having an alkene. Imagine that we are having an alkene here and we are adding H2O in presence of H plus. H2O in presence of H plus. Then we are going to get, see, addition of water means what? Water can be split as H and OH. H plus and OH minus you can split into. H goes to one carbon, OH goes to another carbon. This is not as easy as I am showing here. It takes place via 3 different steps. Protonation followed by formation of carbocation and then addition of water. It takes place in 3 different steps. But since we are not talking about the mechanism of the reaction, I am simply trying to tell you what is happening in a brief. So what is happening? You are adding H2O across this double bond. So you are going to get, there was CH2, now one more hydrogen here, it becomes CH3. This bond is broken, pi bond. Now here CH2OH. CH2OH. So you are going to get ethyl alcohol. If you take ethene and if you add water molecule, you are going to get ethyl alcohol. Now in this case, this is a symmetrical alkene, so you are going to get only one compound. Let's say for example, if you take the cyclohexene, this is a symmetrical alkene. So if you add water to this molecule in the presence of an acid, acid means here it's a mineral acid like H2SO4 or nitric acid or any other mineral acids, okay. So if you add mineral acid, then what happens in this case? You are going to get only one compound, that is cyclohexanol. So cyclohexene is a symmetrical alkene. You are going to get only one compound exclusively, that is cyclohexanol. Now what in the case of unsymmetrical alkene? Unsymmetrical alkene like propene only. Let us take the propene. CH3, CH double bond, CH2. Now this is propene. Now in propene, the alkene is unsymmetrical in nature. Now we will talk about 2 possibilities here. Imagine that you are adding H2O in presence of acid. So there are 2 possibilities. This is carbon number 1, 2. Either H goes here, OH goes here, one possibility, or H goes here, OH to first carbon atom, the second possibility. I will write both the compounds here. So we write CH3, CH2, CH2, OH with respect to the second possibility, second possibility, first possibility, this second possibility, and this is CH3, CH, CH3. As I said, OH can attach to second carbon, OH can attach to first carbon. Here the OH is attached to first carbon, here second carbon. Now this becomes major. As I said, this compound is a Markovnikov product. Okay? Because this addition of water to this alkene goes via formation of an intermediate ion called carbocation. Okay? In case of the first possibility, here, the secondary carbocation will be formed. In case of this second option, primary carbocation will be formed. So since the secondary carbocation is more stable, this OH ion attacks to secondary carbon, that this is the major product. Whereas in case of this one, primary carbocation will be formed, OH attacks to primary carbon atom, and this compound will be formed. So since the primary carbocation formation is less favored, obviously this is a minor product, and this is major product. This is called Markovnikov product in nature. See, if a propene molecule undergoes addition of water, it gives Markovnikov product, that is isopropyl alcohol. Whereas we discussed the same thing here, even this is also an addition reaction. This is what? Addition reaction. But during BH3, the addition takes place according to Markovnikov only. But we are not, don't get confused that it is, just by looking at the product, just because it is giving N-propyl alcohol, it doesn't mean that the addition is taken place in case of, in terms of anti-Markovnikov. Okay? The product is anti-Markovnikov, but the addition is according to Markovnikov only. That is what you need to remember. So, acid catalyzed hydration. There are 3 points you need to remember. Acid catalyzed hydration takes place in the presence of, that means we are adding water in the presence of mineral acids like sulfuric acid or nitric acid, hydrochloric acid, dilute acids or something like that. So it takes place in 3 different steps, but we are not discussing about the mechanism. What happens? You take an alkene, you add water, you are going to get alcohols. Symmetrical alkenes always give exclusively one product. Okay? Because it doesn't matter whether you attach OH here or OH here, both of them give cyclohexanol only. But if you take unsymmetrical alkene like propene, then you get 2 different products where one of the product becomes major, that is Markovnikov product. Okay? So that is about preparation of alcohols using hydroboration oxidation method as well as hydration of alkenes. We'll proceed. Now, in syllabus we have as we have already discussed, we can classify alcohols into primary, secondary and tertiary based on to which carbon the hydroxyl group is attached. So we can say primary alcohols, secondary alcohols and tertiary alcohols. That is how we classify. But the question is how we can distinguish these alcohols, how we can understand or quantitatively or qualitatively we can understand which alcohol is present. Qualitative analysis. Let us imagine that we have given an alcohol in a test tube and we want you to find out what is the nature of that alcohol. We want you to find out whether they are primary, secondary or tertiary. Okay? So now how we can understand this, classify this by using Victor-Meyer's method and oxidation method. Now first we will try to understand how we can distinguish primary, secondary and tertiary using Victor-Meyer's method. Now what is this Victor-Meyer's method? It's a sequential reaction. Means I'll write the sequence here, you'll understand how. Let us say for example we have an alcohol. First step, we treat this with red phosphorus, iodine in presence of red phosphorus, that is I2 in presence of red phosphorus. In the second step, we treat this with AgNO2, that is silver nitrate, okay. In the third step, Okay, you are going to add a base. You are going to add a base. After this sequence, that means first you treat this with phosphorus in presence of iodine, then you treat this with AgNO2, and then you treat with NaOH. Then finally, if you are going to get red color, if the solution turns red, then the alcohol is primary in nature. Alcohol is primary in nature. If, or I'm sorry, we have missed one more point here. We have to add HNO2. This is very important. What is this? HNO2, that is nitrous acid, followed by NaOH. Yes, correct. I'm coming once again, the sequence. First, we are treating this any alcohol with iodine in presence of red phosphorus. Second, we are adding silver nitride. Third, we are adding nitrous acid, HNO2, followed by a small amount of base, that is NaOH. If you get red color, then you can conclude that the alcohol is primary in nature. If you get blue color, then it is secondary. If there is no reaction, if there is no coloration, then it is tertiary in nature, tertiary alcohol in nature. Okay? Now let me write the equation 1 so that you can clearly understand what is actually happening in these alcohols. Okay? So we'll write the reaction sequence and we'll try to understand how the reaction is taking place. I'll write here only. Let us say, for example, we have CH3, CH2OH. Now imagine that we are treating this with iodine in presence of red phosphorus. Okay? So you are going to get what? CH3, I. Then you are adding this Ag in water. Okay? It becomes CH3, CH2 in water. Then you are adding HNO2, as I said, you are adding HNO2, nitrous acid. You are going to get a compound like this. Okay, I'll write it here in this case. Okay, finally HNO2. Okay, hope you are following. We take ethyl alcohol, we treat this with iodine in presence of red phosphorus. That means iodine gets substituted. In place of OH, we have iodine. Second step, you are adding sodium nitrite. NO2 group substitutes iodine, we get ethyl nitrite. In the final step, you are adding HNO2, that is nitrous acid. You are going to get nitrolic acid. So this CH3, C double bond, N, OH, here it is. This is what? Nitrolic acid. That's what gives you a red color. That is what gives you red color. That is, you can confirm that it is primary alcoholic. This is nitrolic acid. Nitrolic acid. That is about primary alcohol. As we were discussing, in case of primary alcohol, you treat primary alcohol with iodine. Let us imagine we don't know whether they are primary or secondary in tertiary nature. We took an alcohol, reacted with iodine in presence of phosphorus, followed by AgNO2, followed by HNO2, and finally we add small amount of NaOH here. NaOH, you are going to get nitrolic, means you are going to get red color. Red color. So if you are going to get red color, that means the alcohol is primary in nature. So now you can see the reaction sequence. So it depends on the number of hydrogen atom present on the carbon which is attached to hydroxyl group. So in case of primary, you get nitrolic acid, it gives red color. Now let us see what happens in case of secondary alcohols. Now once again you are reacting this with iodine in presence of red phosphorus. What happens? This OH is replaced by iodine. You write CH3, CHI, CH3. Next you are going to add Ag, NO2, silver nitride. So you are going to get CH3, CH, CH3. This is NO2 you are going to get. Now if you add HNO2 to this molecule, if you add HNO2, now what happens? Instead of nitrolic acid, it cannot form, now carbon cannot form double bond N here because there were two hydrogen atoms here, both of them replaced by a double bond, but there is only one hydrogen here, so you cannot get carbon-carbon double bond. You only get CH3, C, I'll write here, NO, I'll write CH3, NO2, this is N double bond O. Hope you can see the result, difference between these two. Here, C double bond NOH, this is C single bond NO. This is called pseudo-nitrolic acid. This is. Now, if you add small amount of NaOH to this, you are going to get blue color. And this is called pseudo-nitrolic acid. This is nitrolic acid, pseudo-nitrolic acid. Now, this gives blue color. Now, what happens in case of tertiary? Let us take an example of tertiary butyl alcohol, CH3, 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 OH. What happens if you add iodine in presence of red phosphorus? OH is replaced by I, so you write CH3, CH3, CH3 will come. Next you add AgNO2, AgNO2, I replaced by NO2, so you write CH3, C, CH3, CH3, NO2. Now further if you try to add HNO2, there are no hydrogen atoms to react. Here there were two hydrogen atoms, here there was only one hydrogen atom, here there are no hydrogen atom here, the only carbon atom. So the reaction will not proceed, okay? The reaction will stop here. So it does not proceed with the reaction. So even after adding NaOH to this, it does not give any coloration. So this is a tertiary alcohol. So this is called Victor-Meyer's method. So this sequence is called Victor-Meyer method. Is iodine in presence of phosphorus, you add silver nitrite, you add nitrous acid followed by a small amount of sodium hydroxide. The coloration will give you the idea about the nature of alcohol present in the molecule. The second method is called oxidation method. Second method is called oxidation method. Now in organic chemistry, oxidation is nothing but addition of oxygen or removal of hydrogen. Addition of oxygen or removal of hydrogen. Now in this case I am talking about the removal of hydrogen. Now let us see how we can relate, how we can understand the nature of alcohol just by looking at the oxidized product. Now I will write here. Let us imagine that you have an alcohol. If this alcohol upon oxidation gives aldehyde, if any alcohol upon oxidation gives aldehyde, then it is primary. Then the alcohol must be primary in nature. Let us write a simple example here. I will take ethyl alcohol, CH3, CH2, OH, and we are heating this ethyl alcohol under copper metal, or you are passing the vapors into heated copper metal at 300 degree Celsius. And what happens? So you get CH3, CH2, CH3, CH2. So what is happening? You are removing hydrogen. If you want me to show that, we can write like this. Okay, you are removing these two hydrogen atoms. You are making a double bond here, so it gives CH3, C double bond O, H. That is aldehyde. That is. So you are heating the molecule at that particular Kelvin temperature. So obviously you are going to get aldehyde. So if any alcohol upon oxidation gives aldehyde, it has to be primary in nature. What about secondary? If any alcohol upon oxidation gives ketone, instead of aldehyde, then it has to be secondary alcohol. Let us take a simple example here. We take isopropyl alcohol, and we do oxidation. What happens? I'll write here. You are removing these two hydrogen. You are making a pi bond here. So you are going to get CH3. This is acetone. So if any alcohol upon oxidation gives acetone, that means you are passing the same vapors into heated copper. If you get acetone, or in general case ketone, then the alcohol must be secondary in nature. I am writing specific example here, don't get confused. If you simply write R, then it is general, becomes general. This becomes general reaction. Let us say for example R dash. So you write CH3, R, I dash. R. If you write R means maybe anything. It may be anything. So you can understand like that. Upon oxidation, if an alcohol gives aldehyde, primary. If it gives ketone, it is secondary. What about tertiary alcohols? Now, if any alcohol, usually tertiary alcohol does not undergo oxidation. They resist oxidation. But if any alcohol, upon oxidation, gives carbonyl compound, ketone for example, look here, in case of primary and secondary alcohols, there was 2 carbon alcohol converted into 2 carbon aldehyde. In secondary, there was 3 carbon. Let us say for example, this is carbon, carbon, carbon. 3 carbon alcohol converted into 3 carbon ketone. So what is happening in case of primary and secondary, the number of carbon atoms remain as it is. It retains the originality. There is no change in the number of carbon atoms. But in case of tertiary, what happens? If any alcohol, upon oxidation, with vigorous oxidation I am talking about, don't forget, generally tertiary alcohols cannot undergo oxidation because I am telling you, see, let us take an example of tertiary butyl alcohol. See, in case of primary alcohol, there was a hydrogen next to this carbon. This alpha carbon contains hydrogen. Here is hydrogen, you can remove it. In case of secondary alcohol, there is one hydrogen here. There are 2 hydrogen atoms, one is eliminated. There is only 1 hydrogen atom in case of secondary, you can eliminate. But in case of tertiary, there are no hydrogen atoms in the alpha carbon atom, so you cannot oxidize this compound easily. That's why this tertiary alcohol, they do not undergo oxidation in an ordinary condition. But if you force them, if you increase the temperature or if you add any catalyst or something like that on vigorous oxidation, it gives ketone with less number of carbon atom. Let us imagine that you have a tertiary butyl alcohol here, the same compound, and if you oxidize this compound, you are going to get acetone plus formic acid. You are going to get ketone and a formic acid. That formic acid once again get oxidized, it converted into carbon dioxide. But at this moment, what is the only thing you need to remember? How we can know that the given compound is containing primary alcohol, secondary or tertiary alcoholic group. So, if upon oxidation it gives aldehyde, just remember that it is primary. That means in reverse order you can say that primary alcohols upon oxidation gives aldehydes, secondary alcohols upon oxidation gives ketones having same number of carbon atoms, but tertiary alcohols upon oxidation gives carbonyl compounds and acids with lesser number of carbon atoms than the parent compound. So that is how you understand the the type nature of hydroxyl group, nature of alcohols in any organic functional group. Now the last point is how do we convert primary to secondary, secondary to tertiary. This is very important, okay? Let us try to understand how we can convert this primary alcohol into secondary and secondary alcohol into tertiary as a final point. Now first we'll understand how we can convert primary alcohols into secondary alcohols. Let us take a simplest example here. We'll take primary alcohol, that is ethyl alcohol. Since we already know that if this compound is oxidized, let us say for example you are oxidizing this compound under heated copper, it gives aldehyde, because we already know that primary alcohols upon oxidation gives aldehyde. In this case it is 2 carbon. 2 carbon alcohol becomes 2 carbon aldehyde, that is acetaldehyde. You get acetaldehyde in the first step. Next step you are going to add CH3MgX. This is Grignard reagent. I am taking methyl magnesium bromide. You can simply write RMgX. If you get confused, let us say for example RMgX. So R may be any alkyl or aryl group. So what happens? This R attacks here. So you are going to get CH3CO. I'll write directly. You add acid hydrolysis. So you are going to get OH R. See, I am writing here R. Let us, for the sake of simplicity, let us take that let us assume that we have taken methyl group only. Now this is a primary alcohol converted into aldehyde. When aldehyde reacts with Grignard reagent followed by hydrolysis, they give secondary alcohol. That means this CH3 group is attached to this carbon. Now this alcohol is secondary. You got isopropyl alcohol. This is a secondary alcohol. You got isopropyl alcohol, that is secondary alcohol. That is how you are going to convert primary into secondary. Let us say for example, one more example we'll take. We take benzyl alcohol. Here it is CH2. Benzyl alcohol is a primary alcohol. So what happens? If you oxidize this in heated copper, you are going to get benzaldehyde. You are going to get benzaldehyde. Again, if you react this with methyl magnesium bromide, you are going to get this methyl group attached to this carbon. So you write CH3H. Now this primary alcohol, benzyl alcohol, is converted into this secondary alcohol. So this is how you can convert primary into secondary. We'll see how we can convert secondary into tertiary. Secondary to tertiary. Very simple. First we'll take secondary alcohol. The simplest example what I already told you is isopropyl alcohol. Isopropyl alcohol. In the first step we'll oxidize this compound. Isopropyl alcohol. As I've already told you, the secondary alcohols upon oxidation gives ketone. So we'll write here CH3CO CH3. This H and this H is removed, you got ketone. Now aldehydes react with Grignard reagent to give secondary alcohols, but ketones react with Grignard reagent to form tertiary alcohols. So suppose if I add CH3MgBr, methyl magnesium bromide, I am repeating once again, R group may be any alkyl aryl group. CH3 attacks here, followed by hydrolysis. You are going to get CH3, COH, CH3, CH3. The byproduct will be hydroxy magnesium bromide. Hydroxy magnesium bromide will be the byproduct in both cases. Okay. So what is the idea? We convert secondary alcohol into ketone by oxidation. When ketone further reacts with Grignard reagent, it gives tertiary alcohols. Okay, tertiary alcohols. So this is the method. If you want to convert primary to tertiary, then you have to start from here. In the examination, if they ask you to write how do you convert ethanol into tertiary butyl alcohol, you have to start from here. You have to combine these two steps, then you are going to get tertiary alcohols. That's the simplest way of understanding the concept. I'm coming once again, conversion. The only point you need to remember here is, I have written methyl magnesium bromide here. I have written copper, heated copper here. You can use any other oxidizing method which can easily convert them into ketones. But for the sake of simplicity, let us take a same kind of oxidizing agent here, the heated copper. So, primary to secondary, oxidation followed by Grignard reagent. Secondary to tertiary, again oxidation followed by Grignard reagent. In this case, I have taken methyl magnesium bromide. You can take ethyl, you can take a propyl, you can take phenyl magnesium bromide, whatever it may be. For instance, you'll get the compound. Okay, that is about conversion of primary to secondary, secondary to tertiary. Thank you very much.